When Macaulay Culkin announced that he was a dad at 40, it did more than just make us feel really old. It gave us an insight into his turbulent relationship with his own father. Sure, Mac has never shied away from admitting that he and his dad had a terrible relationship, but now that the actor has a son of his own, he has a new perspective. Now we fully understand how Mac's dad almost derailed his career and stopped him from having his own family. This time around, the former child star is redefining the father-son relationship. When your on-screen family is better than the real one. It's difficult to think of Macaulay Culkin without immediately picturing that little kid with his hands up against his face from Home Alone, but that's just because the franchise made the child actor into an international sensation virtually overnight. Sure, his career started a little earlier with Broadway plays and advertisements, but by the time Home Alone came out in 1990, the cute blonde kid had Hollywood twisted around his little finger, and we loved it. In fact, the franchise was so successful that Macaulay made history by becoming the first child actor to be paid $1 million when he was just 11 years old.
What? What's the problem? This is normal.
That was just the start. His career was so successful that it felt like something out of a Hallmark special. Seriously, Home Alone 2 earned nearly $400 million, and each of his films after that raked in the money. This kid was a literal gold mine, and he was in demand. But to get Macaulay, you had to go through his manager, his dad, Kit Culkin. And while we're used to seeing celebs managed by their parents, just look at the Kardashians for example, for Macaulay it was a literal nightmare. The reason? It was all down to that green-eyed monster, jealousy.
That just seems like weird and like petty almost.
When Home Alone was released, it wasn't just a massive success. It was a big hint that Macaulay's career would skyrocket. And this was great news for Kit, who had 7 kids and no money. In fact, casting director Billy Hopkins once revealed they had no money. Macaulay would crawl under the bleachers at the theater to look for change that had fallen out of people's pockets. They were like the Beverly Hillbillies. When Kit realized that Macaulay was his ticket out of poverty, he quit his job and started managing his son full-time. All he required in exchange was a 15% cut of the youngster's earnings. Managing Hollywood's darling made Kit pretty important in Tinseltown. Just after the release of Home Alone 2 in 1993, he was named the 48th most powerful person in the film industry by Premiere magazine. But as we know, with great power comes great responsibility. And Kit couldn't handle it, so he started making enemies. When he thinks back to that time, Mac admits, look, I mean, it sucks, but it could have been worse, you know? I wasn't working in a coal mine. I wasn't a child soldier. My father was not sexually abusing me. But that doesn't mean there wasn't any abuse. Kit's journey from manager to monster. Like his son, Kit started off as a child actor. Unfortunately, that's as far as he ever got because his plans to be a famous actor never materialized. After a short stint on Broadway as a teen, he was just another failed actor. But his kids gave him another shot at stardom, and he was determined to make them famous. Macaulay actually admitted that this was a huge cause of his dad's awful behavior. He explained, everything he tried to do in life, I excelled at before I was 10 years old. That's gotta hurt. As his son became more famous, Kit became more of a tyrant. His reputation in Hollywood started to suffer, and he was accused of being interfering and hard to work with.
I understood that he was trying to do everything in the interest of his family, trying to secure a financial future and a career, I guess, for his 8-year-old, 10-year-old kid or whatever. But at the same time, I think, I don't think he knew how many bridges he was burning.
But that's nothing compared to the issues Macaulay had. In 2018, he admitted he was a bad man. He was abusive, physically and mentally. I can show you all my scars if I wanted to. My father was always, abusive, but it didn't get really, really, really bad until later on. Shockingly, Mac wasn't the only one subjected to Kit's abuse. His mother, Patricia, accused Kit of excessive drinking and abuse. She elaborated, he punched me in the head and about the body, causing me substantial injury, and dragged me out to the balcony, threatening to push me over. Several of the children witnessed this. With that home situation and the double whammy of having an abusive father and manager, Macaulay was soon at breaking point, and acting started to lose its sparkle. He revealed, "It started feeling like a chore. I started vocalizing that and not being heard." Sadly, his dad refused to let him take time off, as that would mean no more money, and Kit did not like that idea. Macaulay admitted his work life was suffering because, "I'm going around the country, locked in a room with a man who didn't like me." He was also routinely threatened with violence. Famously, when Macaulay wanted to use cue cards for an episode of SNL in 1991, Kit threatened to beat him. He explained, "My father was such a crazy person about it. I had to do the whole episode without cue cards." Then, in 1994, everything changed. From zero to hero, and back again. That year, Macaulay starred in Richie Rich, and like the rest of us, Kit had high hopes for the film. Only it didn't deliver. In fact, it was a box office flop, making only $2 million profit, and Kit was unimpressed. As a result, his behavior got so much worse and caused Patricia to split up with him and started a drawn-out and ugly custody battle for the kids. But for Macaulay, all this drama had a silver lining. In 2018, Mac admitted that his parents' split was one of the best things that ever happened to him, as it led to him leaving the industry, and he was desperate to get out.
Actually, we do primal screaming. That's what we do.
As the actor admitted to Larry King, essentially, "I had to take control. I was going crazy by that point. I knew it was, if I just kept on doing it, I'd go nuts." That's no surprise. At the time, Mac had starred in 14 movies in just 6 years.
I'm pretty well versed in child labor laws.
So while his parents were settling their breakup, he took his chance to get out of show business. He told his parents, "I'm done, guys. Hope you all made your money because there's no more coming from me." And just like that, he retired from acting at 15. But Kit wasn't done. At the height of Macaulay's career, his dad tried everything to keep the actor in the dark about how wealthy he was. Mac explained, "My father would hide newspapers from me so I wouldn't find out how much I was making. But when the issue of his money came up during his parents' court case, he got curious and decided to find out how much he was really worth. And it was a hell of a lot." At just 16 years old, Mac was worth $50 million. But there was a catch. The funds were tied up in a trust fund that he couldn't access until he was 18. And he really needed that money because his mother used all her savings on lawyer's fees and the family was about to get evicted from their apartment. Mac later explained, "Basically, I had millions of dollars in the bank and my mother couldn't pay the rent because she was spending all of her money on lawyers. The only way I could get access to that money was to take my father's name off of it, but I didn't want to make it messy, so I figured I'd take both their names off." And that's when the scandal broke that he was emancipating himself. In 2020, Mac cleared this up and explained, "It's always misconstrued that I emancipated myself. I legally took my parents' names off of my trust fund and found an executor. But the next thing you know, the story was that I divorced my parents." Fast forward to today, and Mac hasn't seen his father since the custody battle, and that's exactly how he likes it. When Larry King asked if he ever contacted his dad, the actor replied, "I don't really have any desire to. And actually, once he was gone, it was actually a good thing. We were just glad, we were actually happy, even throughout that stuff." And it seems the feeling is mutual, because when the Daily Mail asked Kit if he'd spoken to his son recently, the estranged father said, "I don't consider him a son anymore." After a decade of suffering, Mac struggles with his father were finally a thing of the past. History is not going to repeat itself. Despite his father leaving when he was 16, it took a while before Mac was ready to address his past. When he did, it came in the form of a 2006 memoir, which included a letter to his father. Get your tissues ready, because here's a heartbreaking excerpt. "Dear Father, you showed me what it was like to be afraid. You hurt people a lot, I'm not just talking about your family. You hurt our name. I should know. Did you know I had to apologize on your behalf way too many times? You made a lot of people cry. You made my mother cry." Since then, he's come a long way, both professionally and personally. In addition to his Bunny Ears website and podcast, he's landed a few acting roles, and returning to acting has made his life come full circle, because it's how he found his happily ever after. In 2018, when Mac started working on a film called Changeland with his friend Seth Rogen, he met Brenda, and it was love at first sight. And as the actor admitted to Joe Rogan in 2020, she made him realize that he was finally ready for a family of his own. And in April this year, it happened. Mac and Brenda welcomed their son, Dakota, and the actor has never been happier.
I'm living in the now.
With all the hurt he experienced from his own father, we have no doubt that Macaulay will be an amazing dad. He certainly knows what not to do. Here's to Mac's fresh start. We're wishing him all the best. For even more info about Mac and Brenda's bundle of joy, check out this video. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, stay awesome.